Hey, very good morning, everyone. Charles here. FRGNT Daily Chart Analysis, Tuesday, the 14th of July, 2026, 25 minutes to 8 local time here in Milan. Before I get to the day ahead and reset my chart and go again, I will do a quick, very brief breakdown on the position that I took yesterday. So I've only taken one position this week, and that has been a short position on US dollar CAD, which played out quite nicely yesterday. In actual fact. So I'll give a quick breakdown of how that was taken. So those of you that pay careful attention to my analysis on a daily basis, more often than not, what you will see is me providing the DXY first. And that's because I'm using the DXY as my confluence, as it is, of course, the catalyst in terms of me trading the cross pairs such as GU, EU, and AU, but also in terms of any primary or secondary pair, we can say as well, in terms of US dollar CAD. So if I can identify the weakness in the DXY when the DXY is looking to turn around, then I will head to my cross pair to identify something similar in terms of setup and entry criterias, and then I'll look to take a position on the pair that I'm trading. Sounds simple, and it is simple. So US dollar, well, in fact, we'll go for the DXY first and foremost. Ultimately, I am higher time frame, long term, long on the DXY, and the reasons for that is of late the weekly time frame is showing the most basic principles of price action in terms of higher highs. This is the top right hand chart, higher highs, higher lows, for that higher high, higher low, higher high continuation. So after a high, what am I expecting? A higher low. So that gives me reason to anticipate that there could be a little bit of a pullback on that DXY on the US dollar in order for me to capitalize potentially on that US dollar weakness. So whether that is me taking a long position on GU, EU, or AU, or I could, in fact, as I did yesterday, was looking for short positions on UJ, or the position that I actually took was a short position on US dollar CAD. So back to the DXY, what we can see, or what we can say is, so we've recognized that we are in that push phase on that weekly time frame. That is also cemented by the daily time frame on the bottom right hand chart as well, where we can see we've broken significant recent highs in the market, and price indeed is creating those higher highs and higher lows. Now we had one significant candle that gave us a bearish engulfing candle that took out most recent previous price action, and the engulfing element of that candle is of great importance because that then allowed us to select an order block for us to take a position short from potentially. So once we had that order block on the DXY, I was looking to highlight that order block, refine it down as I always do into the 4 hour and then into the 15-minute time frame, and look for a short position on the DXY. So I mentioned short position on the DXY, but what that means is waiting to anticipate if I was going to trade the index, when would I be ready to do so? So I have traded the index previously, but what I figured is if I just mark or chart and analyze the index up as I would, let's say, to go and trade it, then use that as the highest degree of confluence, and then head to my cross pairs to take a position in line with what I'm getting and seeing on the DXY. So what we can also see coming out of that daily time frame is the 4 hour time frame, in my opinion, has developed beautifully in terms of a downtrend. So it is not to be confused that we're long-term long bias on the DXY, but we're trying to identify when it makes sense to take a short position on the DXY, which would just simply be a pullback after that higher high has been created. We would be trading the higher low elements of the DXY, and that's fine to do so. So what we had yesterday was price come up into that 4 hour order block. In fact, was that today? Yeah, it was. So yesterday we had price come into, I'm taking it off the charts. Let me go back a couple of seconds. There it is. DXY. So price came up into a 15-minute order block that had not at this stage tapped into the 4 hour order block. Why is the 15-minute order block of any importance, of significance, I hear you ask? Well, in terms of an intraday perspective, one line will often do it, and we can see that price was staying above a certain area in the market. Then we had price move away and create our most recent low. So of course, when the price creates a low, my anticipation for price to pull back, create a potential lower high before a lower low continuation. So it's not for me to be in the market for price to create that lower low. It's just for me to anticipate a reaction position on the DXY where I can, of course, anticipate that, just a reaction. So going into the nitty gritty then of the DXY, price came into that 15-minute order block. We then had, or what we didn't have rather, was a significant break of structure, of which then I would look to trade it if I were going to trade it as a standalone pair. I didn't really have the clear confluence to do so. So what I was looking to identify is the lower time frame to see if we could get a significant break of structure. What you can see is that my illustration had highlighted this particular candle just here on the 15-minute time frame because price came into the 15-minute order block and we had that bearish engulfing candle coming out. Therefore, it allowed me then to reselect an order block and then identify when price was going to come back into it. Again, as I say, one line will do it, and unfortunately we didn't have a break at the point of my entry on US dollar CAD, but what we can see as price continued to roll on, we can now see that one line would certainly do it. So price didn't break, it came back, then break, and then back up into that order block for the rollover short. So my position on the US dollar CAD short definitely had the confluence to take the position short, but I had an additional confluence. So we're out of the weekly time frame here on US dollar CAD, refine that weekly time frame down, we're into a daily point of interest all the way to the left hand side. Let's see if I can zoom out for you guys to have a good look at it. And there we are, we're refined from that weekly equilibrium of that weekly gam box, and we're in this midsection here on the daily time frame. So of course I'm now looking for shorts only coming out of that daily order block. Now it's then for me to identify price action and structure on the lower time frames to see if the setup has aligned. Despite being in a valid point of interest, I can't stress enough that does not necessarily mean just because price is in your refined point of interest that it's time to take a position. More often than not, my interpretation of price action is that your better criteria is to wait for price to develop further before you take that position. You will see me take aggressive positions from time to time, more than from time to time to be quite honest, but that's because I have the data to support that and I'm willing to take the risk in terms of not waiting for price to break significant lower time frame structure points before taking that entry criteria. And the reason behind doing so would be the DXY really showing signs already that it's ready to go. Therefore, I'm happy to wait for a little bit less confluence on the pair I'm actively trading before getting into that position. Nevertheless, that wasn't the case on US dollar CAD yesterday. So back to the 4-hour time frame, we can see that price is very clearly, it knows how to trend. Therefore, when I'm seeing market moving sideways, it's for me to identify that and do nothing before I see something else. Now, we've had a first clue on the 4-hour time frame where price was respecting that 4-hour 50 EMA beautifully. We had a clue here based on a 4-hour break of the EMA, 4-hour EMA boss. You can see here as my illustration suggests or illustrates. And then what we can see is as price, this could have been the first low in the market just here. Breaking out of my illustration, one thing also to note is it's just an illustration. Price does not have any requirement to respect an illustration. It's my interpretation of price action. But what I can see based on illustration is that we have had a break out of the range, looking for a price to pull back up, looking for price to then make that lower low. So in terms of price breaking these most recent structure points to the lows here, that for me is price creating a lower low even at this stage. The significance of that is then we've had an order block that we're able to use. Why that order block? Well, it's the only order block available that is valid. So in terms of then price coming back up into that order block, it's then for me to identify a position and potentially look for a price, look for a trade. So what I can see on the 50-minute time frame is price didn't actually come back to the 4-hour order block that I was most excited for, just here, and that's right up at these highs on the 15-minute time frame. So if price did come back up to these areas, then I'd be heading back to the DXY to reanalyze is the DXY in a position to turn around. What we had in the immediacy on the 15-minute time frame is a beautiful looking trend, and what we can identify also was a session high in the market, a session high, an area in the market where price is failing to break above in this instance. But what we can see coming out of that area in the market where price is failing to break above is price in this instance stepping down. What I mean by that is here's a low, potential lower high, lower low created, back up into the session high, expecting what? A reaction, but in all honesty, I would be expecting a lower low to be created. Nevertheless, it's not always my job to be in the trade for it to create a lower low. My job is to gain my risk reward ratio that I'm happy with. You can see here 1 to 3, and then I'm out of the market. What we can see, or just the final piece of the puzzle before I end this video for you guys, is that what I didn't have on the DXY, I gained it on the pair that I was looking to trade. Remember, the DXY didn't break significant structures on the 15-minute time frame after looking for price to return back. Let me return to that DXY so you can have a good look. So just here, I wanted price to break these areas first and foremost, but what I was already in the position at this stage. However, price developed afterwards. Nevertheless, although I didn't get it here in terms of a break of an area where price is failing to break below, look what I had on US dollar CAD. It's pretty much textbook for me. We had this, an area in the market, prices failing to break below. We then had a move to the downside. Let me put the illustration on. So we had, if we take that price action like so and move it to a blank canvas, you can see from this one line would do it type of analogy that we've had a break. After that break, I'm looking to identify the order block that caused the break, and it's then down to me to take a short position if I'm happy to do so, for like that. And therefore, if you head back up to the top where you can see the price, that's exactly what happened. So that's pretty much the breakdown, team. So I took 1 to 3 out of the market. Of course, I saw an area in the market where price could well look to react from, which is the order block in the opposite direction, of which caused the most recent push back up into that session high. But again, it's down to me to identify, am I happy with a 1 to 3? Or should I risk my 1 to 3, which is 3%, to simply gain 0.5%? It wouldn't have made sense, in my opinion. So nevertheless, that's 1 to 3 banked yesterday afternoon. And that's how the cookie crumbled, to be quite honest, team. So what I will be doing now is clearing my charts for the day ahead, and you'll hear from me again shortly. So I hope that breakdown helped. Again, this is exactly how I was looking to approach US dollar CAD if price didn't respect my area, and we'll see how the day of trading goes today. Thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate the support across the channels. All the very best. Do take care. Ciao.